The arrival. Zara's heart raced as she sat in her spaceship, staring at the blue and green planet below. Earth. This was her first visit to a world outside her own. She came from Valfar, a beautiful but oppressed planet ruled by the Galactic Empire. For generations, her people lived in fear of the Empire's powerful grip. Now, Zara was here on a mission, but she was nervous. What if the humans were weak? What if they couldn't help her people? As her spaceship landed softly on a grassy field, Zara took a deep breath. She opened the door and stepped outside. The air was fresh and filled with strange scents. She looked around in awe. Towering trees swayed gently in the wind, and colorful flowers bloomed everywhere. The beauty of Earth took her breath away. Zara wore a sleek silver suit that sparkled under the sunlight. It was different from what the humans wore. She felt self-conscious but reminded herself of her mission. She needed to convince the humans to join her fight against the Empire. But first, she had to make a good impression. A group of humans approached, their eyes wide with curiosity. Zara could see a mix of fear and wonder in their faces. One of them, a tall man with glasses, stepped forward. "Welcome. I'm Dr. Harris, a scientist. Are you from another planet?" he asked, his voice friendly but cautious. Zara nodded, feeling a little more at ease. "Yes, I'm Zara from Valfar. I come in peace." She spoke slowly, trying to use words they would understand. The humans exchanged glances, and Zara sensed their uncertainty. "Why are you here?" Another human asked, a woman with bright red hair. "Do you want something from us?" Zara took a deep breath. "I'm here to ask for your help. The Galactic Empire is coming, and they want to control your planet too." She felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had never spoken to humans before, and now she was revealing her fears. Dr. Harris frowned, looking thoughtful. "The Galactic Empire. We've heard stories about them. They are not kind, are they?" Zara shook her head. "No, they destroy worlds and take what they want. I want to warn you. You must prepare." The humans listened carefully. Zara felt their curiosity grow as she shared stories about her home. She told them about the Empire's cruelty, the way they forced her people into submission, and how she had escaped to find help. As she spoke, Zara noticed a small child hiding behind Dr. Harris. The child peeked out with wide eyes, clearly fascinated by the alien visitor. Zara smiled softly at the child, hoping to make her feel safe. "You have a beautiful planet. I hope you can protect it." Dr. Harris stepped forward, determination in his eyes. "We will protect our home. But we need more than words. We need to know how to fight back." Zara's heart lifted. For the first time, she felt a sense of hope. These humans were not weak. They were strong and brave. She could see their willingness to stand against the Empire. Together, they could make a difference. As they began to talk more about plans and strategies, Zara felt a spark of excitement. She was no longer alone. Here on Earth, she had found friends who understood her mission. She was ready to fight, and for the first time, she believed they could win. The journey had just begun, but it was already more promising than she had ever imagined. First impressions. Zara stood with Dr. Harris and the other humans in the middle of the bustling city. It was like nothing she had ever seen before. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, made of shiny glass and strong metal. People walked everywhere, talking, laughing, and living their lives. The noise was loud, but it was a lively sound that made Zara feel alive. As they walked through the streets, Zora's eyes widened in amazement. She had only seen such places in her dreams. Bright signs lit up the night sky, and colorful vehicles zoomed by on the roads. The air was filled with delicious smells from nearby food stalls. She spotted a vendor selling something that looked like fried dough, sprinkled with sugar. Her stomach rumbled, and she felt a sudden urge to try it. "Can I taste that?" Zara asked, pointing to the stall. Dr. Harris smiled. "Of course. It's called a donut. You'll love it." He bought one for her, And as she took a bite, her eyes lit up. The sweet, soft treat melted in her mouth. "This is amazing," she exclaimed, her face bright with joy. The humans around her laughed, happy to see her excitement. They continued walking, and Zara felt more at ease. She started to notice the small things: children playing in the park, families having picnics, and friends chatting on benches. Each moment reminded her of what she wanted to protect: freedom and happiness. As they approached a small group of people, Zara saw something that shocked her. Two humans were arguing loudly. One was a man with a thick beard, and the other was a woman with fiery red hair, the same as Dr. Harris's colleague. Zara watched as they shouted at each other, their faces filled with anger. She felt a wave of confusion. "Do humans often fight like this?" she asked Dr. Harris quietly. "Not all the time," he replied. "But we have strong feelings. Sometimes we disagree, but we find a way to talk it out. It's part of being free." Zora understood. On Valthar, disagreements were not allowed. The Empire would silence anyone who spoke out. The idea that humans could express their thoughts, even if it led to conflict, amazed her. She realized that this freedom was something worth fighting for. They continued their tour, visiting a museum filled with art and history. Zara was fascinated by the paintings, sculptures, and stories of humans overcoming challenges. She learned about revolutions, discoveries, and the spirit of adventure that defined Earth. Each story inspired her, filling her with hope and determination. Suddenly, Dr. Harris pointed to a large painting. "This one represents the fight for freedom," he explained. "It reminds us that even in the darkest times, people have stood up against oppression." Zara felt a deep connection to the painting. It mirrored her own experiences, her own fight against the Empire. She realized that Earth had its struggles, but the humans here were not afraid to confront them. This was a planet that valued freedom above all else. As the day went on, Zara began to feel like she belonged. The humans were kind, and their laughter was infectious. She shared stories of her home, and they listened with interest, eager to understand her world. By the end of the day, Zara was no longer just an alien visitor. She was part of something bigger. She felt the warmth of friendship and the strength of unity. As the sun set behind the city, casting a golden glow over everything, Zara knew she had found a home among these brave humans. Together, they would stand against the Galactic Empire, and together, they would fight for the freedom they all cherished. Secrets of the Empire. The sun was setting over the city, casting long shadows that danced along the streets. Zara felt a sense of warmth and belonging as she shared stories with her new friends. But deep down, she knew the danger was not far away. The Galactic Empire was still out there, watching and waiting. The next day, Dr. Harris invited Zara to his lab. The lab was filled with strange machines and glowing screens. Zara's eyes sparkled with curiosity as she walked in, taking in the sights and sounds. "This is where we study technology and learn about the universe," Dr. Harris explained. "We want to understand everything, especially threats like the Galactic Empire." Zara's heart sank at the mention of the Empire. She remembered the stories of how they conquered worlds and silenced anyone who stood against them. "I want to help," she said, her voice firm. "I know things about the Empire that can help you prepare." Dr. Harris nodded, looking pleased. "Then let's start with what you know." He pulled up a chair for Zara, and she sat down, ready to share her secrets. "On Valthar, we have seen the Empire's cruelty firsthand," Zara began. "They invade planets, take resources, and enslave the people. They use fear to control us. My parents were taken away when I was young because they spoke out against the Empire. I escaped, but many of my friends are still trapped." Dr. Harris listened intently, his expression serious. "This is important information, Zara. We need to warn others. But how can we fight back?" Zara thought for a moment. "The Empire has powerful ships and weapons, but they also have weaknesses. They rely on a central command system to control their forces. If we can disrupt that system, we can weaken them. Dr. Harris's eyes widened with realization. That's brilliant. If we can hack into their communication network, we might be able to confuse them during a battle. Zara felt a surge of hope. Yes, and we can gather intelligence from other planets they have conquered. If we can unite those worlds, we'll have a greater chance of fighting back. Just then, a loud alarm rang through the lab. Dr. Harris rushed to a window and looked outside. "What's happening?" Zara asked, her heart racing. "Something's not right," Dr. Harris replied, his voice tense. "I think the Empire has found us." Zara's pulse quickened. She had feared this moment. They needed to act quickly. "We have to protect the information we have," she said, her voice steady. "If the Empire gets it, they will come for us." Dr. Harris nodded and hurried to his computer. "I'll upload everything we have to a secure server. We need to ensure this information doesn't fall into their hands." As he worked, Zara felt a mix of fear and determination. She knew the Empire was dangerous, but she also felt empowered. This was her chance to fight back and protect her new friends. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the sound of a spaceship echoed outside. Zara rushed to the window and gasped. A large Galactic Empire ship hovered above the city, casting a shadow over the streets below. Its dark hull gleamed ominously, and the insignia of the Empire was clearly visible. "We have to hide," Zara shouted. "They're here." Dr. Harris quickly finished uploading the data and grabbed Zora's arm. "Follow me. We have a safe room in the back of the lab." They dashed through the door, their hearts pounding. Inside the safe room, Zara and Dr. Harris closed the door and locked it tight. Zara's mind raced with thoughts of her planet, her family, and the fight that lay ahead. She had come to Earth looking for help, and now she was determined to face the Empire head-on. Together, they would find a way to defeat the darkness and protect everything they held dear. Building trust. Inside the safe room, Zara and Dr. Harris waited, their breaths heavy with worry. The sound of the Galactic Empire ship echoed outside, sending shivers down Zora's spine. They were not safe yet, but they had to stay calm. After a few tense moments, the sounds of the ship began to fade. Zora looked at Dr. Harris, her heart racing. "Do you think they're gone?" "I hope so," he replied, glancing at the door. "But we can't take any chances. We need to build trust with the people who will stand with us against the Empire." Zara nodded, realizing the importance of unity. She wanted to help Earth and ensure they could fight back together. "But how do we do that?" she asked. Dr. Harris thought for a moment. "We need to show them the truth about the Empire. If people understand what's at stake, they will join us. We can hold a meeting, invite people from different communities, and share our plan." "Great idea," Zara exclaimed. "We can tell them about the Empire's weaknesses and how we can fight back. But we need to find a safe place to gather." Dr. Harris smiled. "I know just the place. There's a community center nearby where we can hold our meeting. Let's get moving before the Empire returns." They quickly left the safe room and made their way to the community center. The streets were quiet, but Zara felt the tension in the air. She knew that danger could return at any moment. When they arrived, the building was small but welcoming, with bright banners hanging outside. Dr. Harris opened the door, and they stepped inside. "Let's set up the presentation," he said, leading Zara to a room filled with chairs. They arranged the chairs in a circle and set up a projector. As they worked, Zara felt a mix of excitement and fear. Would the people listen to them? Would they believe that the Empire was a real threat? Soon, people began to arrive. They were curious about the strange alien who had come to Earth. Zara stood in front of the crowd, her heart pounding. Dr. Harris introduced her, and the room fell silent. "Thank you for coming," Zara began, her voice steady. "I am Zara from Valfar, a planet under the control of the Galactic Empire. I have come to warn you. The Empire is powerful and cruel. They want to take over Earth too." Some people exchanged glances, Unsure of what to believe, a man in the back raised his hand. How do we know you're telling the truth? There are so many stories about aliens. Why should we trust you? Zara took a deep breath. I understand your doubt, but I have seen the Empire's cruelty firsthand. They destroyed my home and took my family. I am here because I believe we can fight back together. Dr. Harris stepped forward. Zara is right. We have gathered important information about the Empire's weaknesses. If we unite, we can protect Earth and help other planets in danger. Slowly, people began to nod. Zara could see their expressions change from doubt to determination. A woman in the front stood up. What can we do to help? She asked, her voice strong. Zara felt hope swell inside her. We need volunteers to help spread the word. We must prepare defenses and create a communication network with other planets. Together, we can build a strong alliance. The room buzzed with energy as people began to discuss ideas. They shared stories of their own struggles and how they had fought against oppression in the past. Zara listened, feeling a deep connection with each person. As the meeting continued, Zara began to feel like part of the community. She shared laughter and ideas, building trust with the humans around her. By the end of the night, they had a plan in place and a renewed sense of purpose. Zara realized that together, they were stronger. With each passing moment, she felt more at home on Earth. The fight against the Galactic Empire was just beginning, but now, they were ready to stand united. Together, they would protect their worlds, and Zara would never have to face the darkness alone again. The Empire responds. The next morning, the sun rose bright and cheerful, but Zara felt a heavy weight in her heart. After the meeting at the community center, the people of Earth had shown their support, but she knew the Galactic Empire would not take their defiance lightly. As she and Dr. Harris prepared for their next steps, a feeling of unease filled the air. We need to move quickly, Dr. Harris said, typing rapidly on his computer. The Empire won't let us gather more allies without a fight. They'll want to crush any resistance before it can grow. Zara nodded, determination burning in her chest. We must warn the others and strengthen our defenses. But how will we do that? Just then, a loud rumble shook the building. Zara's eyes widened, and she rushed to the window. The sky darkened as a massive Galactic Empire ship descended from the clouds, its shadow stretching over the city like a dark omen. They're here, Zara shouted, her voice filled with panic. Dr. Harris quickly grabbed her arm. We need to hide and stay calm. If they find us, they will not hesitate to attack. They ducked behind a row of desks in the lab, heartbeats racing. Through the window, they saw the Empire's troops deploying from the ship. The soldiers, dressed in dark armor and armed with powerful weapons, spread out across the streets, searching for any signs of rebellion. We must stay silent, Dr. Harris whispered. They will not hesitate to use force against anyone who opposes them. Zara felt a surge of fear. The sight of the Empire's soldiers reminded her of the horrors she had witnessed on Volfar. She closed her eyes, recalling the destruction and despair that had plagued her home. We can't let them win, she said, her voice low but steady. We have to find a way to fight back. Dr. Harris nodded, his expression serious. We need to alert the people. If we can get everyone to safety and organize our defense, we might stand a chance. After a tense wait, the soldiers moved on, searching other buildings. Zara and Dr. Harris slipped out of the lab and back into the streets. They quickly made their way to the community center, where they had gathered the night before. They needed to warn everyone about the Empire's arrival. As they arrived, they saw people milling about, some looking confused and others frightened. Zara stepped onto a small platform, raising her hands for attention. Everyone, listen, she called. The Galactic Empire has come to Earth. We must prepare to defend ourselves. Gasps filled the crowd, and a murmur spread through the people. A woman stepped forward, her face pale with fear. What can we do? They're too powerful. Zara felt her heart race, but she knew she had to inspire them. We have something they do not: unity. If we work together, we can fight back. We can use the Empire's weaknesses to our advantage. Dr. Harris joined her, his voice strong. We have information on their command system. If we can disrupt their communications, we can confuse their troops and buy ourselves some time. Slowly, the crowd began to rally. What do we need to do? A young man shouted. We'll fight for our planet. Zara felt a wave of hope wash over her. We need volunteers to create a defense team. We must gather supplies, organize watch groups, and prepare for an attack. This is our home, and we won't let them take it. As the people began to organize into groups, Zara could see determination shining in their eyes. They were ready to fight. Together, they planned their next steps, gathering resources and preparing defenses. The atmosphere shifted from fear to resolve. Just then, a loud explosion shook the ground outside, followed by screams. The Empire was not waiting any longer. They were determined to crush the resistance, but Zara felt a fierce fire igniting within her. She knew they would stand strong. As the first wave of soldiers charged into the community center, Zara and the people of Earth were ready to fight for their freedom. Together, they would face the darkness, and together, they would not back down. The battle for Earth had begun, gathering allies. The sounds of chaos echoed around the community center as the Galactic Empire's soldiers stormed in. Zara and the people of Earth stood their ground, hearts pounding with fear and determination. They had already begun to gather supplies and prepare their defenses, but now the time for action had come. Zara took a deep breath, pushing down her fear. We have to hold them off, she shouted, her voice rising above the noise. Everyone, form a line. Protect each other. The humans quickly organized themselves, grabbing whatever they could find as makeshift weapons. Dr. Harris moved beside Zara, a fierce look in his eyes. We need to buy time for the others to escape. If we can hold the Empire off long enough, we can regroup and call for more allies. Zara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Let's show them that Earth will not fall easily. With renewed strength, she joined the others in creating a barricade. They pushed tables and chairs against the doors, making it harder for the soldiers to get in. As they worked together, Zara noticed a young girl with bright blue hair standing nearby, her eyes wide with fear. Zara knelt down beside her. Hey, what's your name? She asked gently. Leela, the girl whispered, trembling. Leela, we need brave people like you, Zara said, trying to inspire confidence. Can you help us find other kids? If they are safe, we can focus on fighting. Leela nodded, her fear slowly turning into determination. I can do that. She ran off to find her friends, and Zara felt proud. Even the youngest could play a part in the fight against the Empire. Meanwhile, Dr. Harris had managed to contact a few local community leaders through a secure communication line. We need to gather our allies. If we can unite with other towns and cities, we can form a larger resistance, he said, speaking quickly into the device. They need to know what's happening. Zara watched as the crowd outside the community center began to gather. People from different neighborhoods were joining them, bringing whatever they could find: baseball bats, gardening tools, and even makeshift shields. The sense of unity filled Zara with hope. They were standing together, ready to protect their home. Suddenly, an explosion shook the ground, and the doors burst open. The Empire soldiers charged in, weapons drawn. Zara felt her heart race, but she stood firm. Hold the line, she yelled. The fight erupted, and chaos filled the room. Zara fought alongside the humans, using her agility and training to dodge enemy fire. She quickly helped a nearby human who had fallen, pulling him to safety behind a barricade. Stay with us, she urged, adrenaline pumping through her veins. In the midst of the battle, Zara saw Leela return with a group of children. I found them, Leela shouted, relief on her face. They're safe. Good job, Zara replied, her heart swelling with pride. Now, can you and the other kids help us by keeping watch over everyone?" Leela nodded, quickly gathering her friends to help. They formed a small lookout group, ensuring that everyone was safe. Zara realized that even the smallest among them could make a big difference. As the battle raged on, more people arrived. Community leaders from nearby towns joined the fight, bringing with them their own groups of volunteers. Zara saw familiar faces, friends, neighbors, and even people she had met only a few days before. They had all come together to defend their planet. Just when it seemed like they were gaining the upper hand, a loud voice boomed over the chaos. "Enough! You will all bow to the Empire." It was the commander of the Empire's troops, a tall figure dressed in dark armor. His presence sent chills down Zara's spine. But she felt a surge of courage. "We will never bow," she shouted back, her voice strong. "We will fight for our freedom." The crowd rallied behind her, their voices rising in unison. "We will fight. We will fight." Zara knew this was just the beginning. They had gathered allies and strengthened their resolve. With unity and determination, they would stand against the Empire, no matter the cost. Together, they would protect their home and show the Galactic Empire that Earth would never give up. The epic battle. The air was thick with tension as Zara and her allies prepared for the fight of their lives. The community center was now a battleground, filled with brave volunteers standing shoulder to shoulder, ready to defend their home. Outside, the Galactic Empire's soldiers regrouped, their numbers growing by the minute. Zara could see the dark armor and weapons glinting in the sunlight, a stark reminder of the danger they faced. "Stay strong," Zara shouted, her voice carrying over the noise. "We can win this. We have the element of surprise." Dr. Harris stood beside her, holding a makeshift weapon he had fashioned from metal scraps. "Let's make sure they know we're not afraid," he said, determination in his eyes. With a fierce battle cry, the Empire soldiers charged toward the community center, their blasters firing. Zara's heart raced, but she took a deep breath and focused. "Now," she yelled, signaling her allies. The defenders of Earth stood their ground, returning fire with everything they had. People threw objects, aimed their makeshift weapons, and shouted words of encouragement. Zara ducked and rolled, using her agility to dodge incoming blasts while keeping her eyes on the enemy. In the chaos, she spotted Leela and the other children. They had taken refuge behind a barricade, watching intently. "Stay safe, Leela," Zara called, her heart heavy with worry. She wanted to protect them, but knew she needed to fight. As the battle raged on, Zara felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She quickly glanced at Dr. Harris, who was rallying the volunteers. "We need to flank them. If we can get behind their lines, we can create confusion," he shouted. Zara nodded, gathering a small group of brave fighters. "Follow me," she commanded, leading them toward the side entrance of the community center. They moved quickly and quietly, avoiding the enemy's attention. When they reached the side, Zara peeked out. The Empire soldiers were focused on the front, unaware of the threat approaching from the side. "Now's our chance," she whispered. With a nod, they charged forward, catching the soldiers off guard. The Empire troops were thrown into disarray. Zara and her team fought fiercely, using their agility and teamwork to outmaneuver the armored soldiers. Each strike was fueled by the belief that they were fighting not just for themselves, but for everyone on Earth. As the battle continued, more allies arrived, each bringing their strength and skills. They were united in their cause, standing strong against the Empire's might. Zara felt hope growing within her. They were not alone. Together, they were powerful. But the Empire commander, the tall figure in dark armor, was not one to be underestimated. He raised his blaster and shouted commands, quickly regaining control of his troops. With a fierce glare, he turned his attention to Zara and her group. "You will regret this foolish rebellion," he roared. Zara felt a chill run down her spine, but she stood tall. "We will not back down," she shouted back, her voice unwavering. You will never control us." With a determined charge, the commander led his troops toward Zora's group. The clash of weapons echoed around them as they engaged in a fierce battle. Zora ducked, dodged, and struck with all her strength. Her allies fought alongside her, their spirits unyielding. As the fight continued, Zora noticed that the Empire's communication lines were faltering. The soldiers were starting to panic, confusion spreading among them. "It's working," she yelled to Dr. Harris. "They're losing control." With renewed energy, Zara and her team pushed forward. The defenders of Earth rallied around her, shouting battle cries that filled the air. They fought not just with weapons, but with hope and determination. Finally, after what felt like hours of fierce combat, the tide began to turn. The Empire soldiers, realizing they were losing ground, started to retreat. Cheers erupted from the defenders as they pushed the Empire back, reclaiming their community. Zara felt a surge of triumph. They had fought bravely and won this battle. But she knew the war was far from over. They had to prepare for whatever the Empire would throw at them next. With their spirits high and unity as their strength, Zara and her allies were ready for the challenges ahead. Together, they would protect their home and fight for freedom, no matter what it took. The turning point. The cheers of victory filled the air as Zara and her allies celebrated their hard-won battle. They had managed to push back the Galactic Empire's forces, but the threat was far from over. The commander had escaped, and Zara knew he would return with even greater force. The battle was just one step in a much larger war. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the community center, Zara gathered her friends and allies for a meeting. Dr. Harris stood beside her, his expression serious. "We need to prepare for the Empire's next move. They won't give up easily." Zara nodded, her heart heavy with the weight of responsibility. "We've shown them that we can fight back, but we must also be smart. If we want to defeat them for good, we need to turn the tide in our favor." One of the community leaders, a woman named Maria, spoke up. "We should reach out to neighboring towns. If they see that we've successfully resisted the Empire, they might join us. We need to unite all the local communities." "That's a great idea," Zara said, feeling the surge of hope. "The more allies we have, the stronger we'll be. If we can gather enough people, we can stand against the Empire's might." Dr. Harris took a deep breath. "I can use my contacts to spread the word. We can send messages to anyone who will listen. We need to create a network of resistance across the region." As they discussed their plans, Leela and her friends entered the room, their faces filled with excitement. "Can we help?" Leela asked, her blue hair bouncing as she spoke. "We want to do something." Zara smiled at the children. "Of course, every person matters, no matter how small. You can help us spread the word to your friends and families. Every voice counts." Leela and her friends nodded, ready to take on the challenge. They quickly ran off, eager to tell everyone about their victory and the need for unity. Zara felt a warm glow of pride watching them go. Even the youngest could play a role in the fight for freedom. As the night deepened, the group continued to plan. They decided to organize a larger gathering in 3 days to discuss their strategy and build support. With renewed energy, everyone began to prepare for the next steps. The following day, Zara, Dr. Harris, and several volunteers set out to deliver messages to the nearby towns. They traveled on foot, using bicycles and even old vehicles to reach as many people as possible. Along the way, they encountered more and more residents who had heard of their fight against the Empire. Every town they visited welcomed them, and soon they had gathered a diverse group of supporters. Farmers, teachers, and shopkeepers all wanted to join the cause. They shared stories of their own struggles and why they wanted to stand up against the Empire. Back at the community center, the atmosphere was electric with excitement. People from different backgrounds, races, and professions came together, united by a common goal. Zara felt a deep sense of pride as she stood before the crowd. "We are not just a community, we are a movement," Zara declared, her voice ringing through the room. Together, we can show the Galactic Empire that we will not be silenced. We will fight for our freedom, our families, and our future. The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy palpable. Zara felt the turning point had arrived. They had transformed from a small group of defenders into a powerful alliance. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the following days, they trained and strategized, preparing for the inevitable return of the Empire. Zara knew that this was just the beginning. With each passing moment, they were growing stronger, and their resolve was unbreakable. As she looked around at her allies, Zara felt hope blossom within her. They had the spirit and determination to resist the Empire, and together they would turn the tide of this war. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the turning point in their fight for freedom. Together, they would change the fate of Earth and all the worlds threatened by the Galactic Empire. A new hope. The day of the big gathering had finally arrived. People from all over the region had come together, filling the community center and spilling into the streets outside. Zara could feel the excitement buzzing in the air. This was more than just a meeting. It was a declaration of hope, a chance to unite against the Galactic Empire once and for all. Zara stood at the front of the room, her heart racing with anticipation. Around her were Dr. Harris, Maria, and other leaders from different towns. The walls were decorated with banners made by the children, each one painted with bright colors and messages of unity and strength. Together we stand. Read one banner, while another proclaimed, "Freedom is our right." As the crowd quieted down, Zara took a deep breath. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady. "We have fought hard against the Empire, and our victory in the last battle showed them that we will not back down. But we must do more. We need a plan to take the fight to them." Dr. Harris stepped forward, holding a map of the region. "We've gathered intelligence about the Empire's movements. They are regrouping and preparing for another attack. But we have an advantage. They underestimate us. They think we are weak because we are not soldiers, but we are strong because we stand together." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. Zara could see determination on their faces. They were ready to take action. "We need to form teams," Zara continued. "Some will focus on defending our homes, while others will work to gather more allies and resources. We must also disrupt the Empire's supply lines. If we can cut off their resources, we will weaken them." A man in the crowd raised his hand. "How do we do that? They have ships and weapons far beyond our own." Zara smiled, remembering the conversations they had held over the past days. "We use our strengths. We know our land better than they do. We can create traps and ambushes. We can sabotage their supplies using stealth and teamwork." Another woman stood up, her eyes shining with passion. "I can gather my friends and family from nearby towns. Together, we can make a larger force." "Perfect," Zara replied, feeling the surge of excitement. "Every person counts. We need to reach out to everyone. The more we unite, the stronger we become." As plans were made, the energy in the room grew. People exchanged ideas and volunteered for different tasks. Children ran around, collecting information from their parents and spreading the news. This was not just a fight for their homes. It was a fight for their future. Hours passed as they organized and prepared. They crafted weapons from everyday objects, shared stories of bravery, and bonded over their shared purpose. Zara felt a deep sense of hope swell within her. They were not just defending their home. They were building a community rooted in strength and unity. As night fell, they lit candles around the center, creating a warm glow that illuminated their faces. Zara looked around at her allies, friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had come together for one cause. She felt a deep connection with each of them, knowing that they would face the Empire as one. "Tomorrow, we take the first steps toward our freedom," Zara declared, raising her candle high. "We show the Empire that we are not afraid. We are strong, we are united, and we will not be silenced." The crowd erupted into cheers, the sound echoing into the night. Hope filled the air like a warm breeze, wrapping around everyone present. They were ready to fight, to stand together against the darkness, and to protect everything they loved. With hearts full of courage and determination, they faced the future, knowing that together they could overcome any challenge. A new hope had emerged, and it burned brightly in their hearts. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a fight for freedom, for justice, and for the belief that, no matter how dark the night, the dawn of a new day was always possible.